You should eat it. Put it in your mouth. Oh, Danny!
Why are you here?
Danny!
Why are you here? When did you show up?
Could you get me the plaster, Danny?
The what?
The plaster! Could you get me the plaster,
Excuse
Danny?
me? Okay, number one.
Plaster.
I believe they're called Band-Aids. Thank you. This is
What?
America, Mom.
Is it? I'm so
Nobody said that you
confused.
should show up and just, in the middle of my hot date with this woman that I met, just get out. I don't love you
Why
anymore.
are you sucking on my toes?
Well, you invited me in. I think that's how the movie went. This movie was too confusing.
Yes, it was. Hey, everybody. It's the Old Boys Podcast.
I mean, hi.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, introduction aside, that I liked how confusing it was, but at the same time...
Dan, shut up.
Okay.
That's Dan. I'm Jared.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. This is the Old Boys Podcast.
Yes,
Danny,
Mom.
no one knows what you're talking about because you haven't explained what the movie is.
Correct, Mom.
I'm still your mom.
Okay.
So this movie's called Kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope.
It's the film that we watched.
Starring Toby Jones.
Toby Jones. Holy shit, Toby Jones.
Everybody in
guy.
this film was fantastic, but Toby Jones, most certainly, intense, brooding.
My acting boner for him. Well, but first, before we go into too much, Dan, let us know what this movie is. Just
Okay, so this guy...
a little bit.
Okay, this one might be tricky for me to do because it's very abstract how it works. But this guy, his mother comes into town, into London town, essentially, and she has an estranged relationship with her son, and her son is Toby Jones, and it's kind of implied that, like, he killed his dad for the mom, and that might be why they have an estranged relationship. But the mom won money, and that's why she's coming into town. But, like, he's also going through this kind of torrid love affair with this girl who's still involved with her husband. And the film purports it to be that he murders this girl, and then the mom shows up and is, judging him silently because she kind of figures out what's going on.
Yeah.
But the film kind of doubles back on that and makes it like the mom showing up was all in his head or happened previously, and he ended up murdering the mom instead of the girl that we think is murdered. Because the girl shows up later with the ex-husband saying, "What did you do with all my clothes?"
Yeah.
So it's like three
really
different
confusing.
weird, bizarre realities that seem to be all in his head. It's not like alternate dimensions. It's like he is so involved into his psyche that just every narrative that he constructs for himself blends into this film, which is really
What
cool.
I thought was interesting is I didn't know when he was starting to go crazy. It just seems like he was crazy from the get-go.
No, he was crazy from the get-go because like the only way for that plot to make sense is if you just jumped into the narrative as it's a crazy person. Like I had to go back and rewatch some of the scenes. I'm like, well, wait, if that happened now, what? I have to go back and watch this other scene to really make it make sense. But I think what happened is he murders his mom.
Okay.
But then develops this narrative because of how guilty he is that he didn't actually murder his mom. He murdered this woman because the woman even says something like, "What's your sort? You're either going to have somebody who's not like your mom or who's like your mom."
Yeah.
So like she gave a hint that she may be like his mom. So I don't know.
Yes. I mean, the movie likes to use repetition
But really well.
similar scenes and
Very
situations to the movie's benefit. Yes. To illustrate that things might be happening in sequence, but almost out of sequence.
Yes.
Or that It's the idea of he's like a victim and also might have learned from that experience to become the perpetrator. Like when somebody gets, this is, I mean, a difficult topic to discuss, but when somebody gets molested when they are young, they usually, not always, but sometimes they grow up and they use that abuse that they got and they take it out on other people and perpetuate that sickness or whatever when they get older. And it's like you can apply that same logic to this film, but it's murder. Yeah. It might even be more than that. It might be some other weird shit.
Like, well, because the idea that, you know, it's implied that he may have murdered his dad and, like, that is weighing on him. Uh-huh. It just, if that is where his mom drove him to, you know that it's much like, that's just not like, you know, love mom, and then the next day, hey, can you do this for me? That's mom systematically breaking this kid down for years until she's able to manipulate him into doing that, if that is the case.
Yes.
It's all
so
implied.
I'm glad you came to the same conclusion I did, because that is exactly what I thought was going on, is that the mom fell in love with her own son, manipulated him, and then made him kill his dad.
Yeah, if you haven't watched this movie, we are severely analyzing and speculating it after, like, breaking it down and looking at all the pieces. But this is one of those. It's the first movie in a long time that has made us think. Hard, I guess, is a good way to put that.
Hard thinking, guys.
Hard thinking.
Hard,
kaleidoscope
long,
of hard thinking.
Sturdy thinking.
Anyway, first impressions, Jared.
I like this movie. I enjoyed it. I thought Rupert Jones did a really good job directing it. I liked the dialogue. The dialogue is very well done. All these little scenes, it felt like nothing really felt wasted. I was very engaged, even when it was slow. Even in the beginning, where it's like a 30-second shot of just this guy's living room.
Was that 30 seconds?
Yeah,
it felt much longer.
It might have been a little bit, maybe around a minute. I don't know. But I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then I hear somebody banging on the door. I was like, what is going on?
And then nobody's answering. And then, like, you see his head pop up from behind the couch.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is interesting. All right.
And it's not the door being banged on. It's the bathroom, maybe? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's all in his head. You don't know. So, and then, like, the really cool staircase and some of the cool visuals and how, like, they'll just zoom in on shit on a table and they'll just, like, look at all of it.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is neat.
My first impressions, I like this film a lot too, but, like, the attention that is brought to things, like just random objects on the table, just like slow zooms onto things that, like, may or may not be important, but it's just like, it's a momentary lapse in cognition, essentially, where it's like you're kind of dazing off into space, which, you know, how many times did you see Toby Jones' character daze off into space?
Yeah, just zoning out.
So, like, you may have been experiencing what he was seeing. But another thing that I really like...
Because they talk about him going somewhere else. And he does.
Yeah, and I like... Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. But I like what you said about the staircase. But another one of my favorite things is anytime that they give you the full block shot of all the flats. Mm-hmm. And it happens like maybe 3 or 4 times in the movie, but it's like just a big wide shot of the apartment building that this guy lives in. It's fucking crazy looking.
I just, from an editing and director standpoint, because as we all know, I'm a professional editor and director, so I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, of course.
No, Dan, shh, don't tell him.
I didn't say anything.
I thought it was really well done. What's that?
I said I didn't say anything.
No. Shut up. Don't tell him. I don't know anything about that. Shut up. I thought it was so well done. And for how weird and slow this movie is, I was super engaged the whole time. I was like, oh, what the fuck? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And even though you're kind of like, there's no way a lot of this is real. Like, when his mom came to visit, I was like, okay, his mom is not real. I think I figured that out pretty fast. I'm like, she's not really here. Because how can he treat his mom so terribly? And she just takes it on the chin over and over and over again. I was like, there's no way. If I was like screaming at you, Dan, to get the fuck out of my house, and you're like, I'm just going to go upstairs and go to sleep. Like, no, get out of my house. And the whole lottery thing. Oh my God. What the fuck was that?
Oh, here's I feel the need to just get this off my chest. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but you mentioned being a professional director, right? And a couple, I don't know, months ago, we had a interview with a professional boom operator. Remember that?
Yes,
so
I do.
What is that? You know comedians better than I do, but his name is like Kyle Kinane or something.
Kyle Kinane.
Kyle Kinane.
Yeah.
So I was watching an episode of Drunk History where he was the one that was getting drunk and talking about it.
Okay.
And this guy, in the middle of everything, reaches up and takes the windscreen off of the boom microphone. And I'm like, what if our professional boom mic operator is the one who did that? That guy, Kyle Kinane, would have been murdered by a boom operator if that had happened. Like,
I still think that's a good idea for a horror movie where a boom operator, Mike, has like a knife or something and he's like killing people with it.
Idea. And it's on a movie set. Oh, it'd be so self-reflexive. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. But if you get like a higher level of it, it would be that people don't realize they're in a movie, but then they keep seeing the boom mic popping out of the top of the screen, and then eventually that boom mic just is following them everywhere.
So it'd be like Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Or like a Truman Show meets Cabin in the Woods. Where it's
it'd
like people don't know they're in a horror movie.
Yeah. Anywho, so I have heard a lot of reviews are comparing this movie to Psycho, Dan.
That's weird.
Do you think that is a credible comparison?
No.
I think the only thing I could draw, if I'm trying to draw these lines and connect these dots, is a crazy guy and he has a mom that he's kind of obsessed about. That's about it. Because the films themselves are so different. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got the whole weird thing in like with Psycho in the very beginning with that woman like running away and whatever, and then she gets killed, and like the main character gets fucking killed in like the first 30 minutes, and then the whole film is about something else.
Yeah,
like that's out of control. I don't think anyone ever had seen that in a film. It probably existed somewhere else, but like that was game changing for like a horror film. And in this movie, it's like it's not doing any of that. It's all like it's more reminiscent of like the single shot like. The film is only in one spot location type of movie.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. My qualms with comparing it
different.
to things like Psycho. Psycho's a classic. It's important. And, at that point, think about how many horror films you have where, like, there's a really strange relationship between mother and son. Like Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. With Mrs. Voorhees being the killer at the end.
Yeah. Oh, that's like Psycho. That's like Psycho.
Yeah. So like, I can't necessarily say that if there's a Oedipus complex in a horror film, that's not necessarily like. I mean, I feel like the reason Psycho worked in the first place is because of the Oedipus complex, and you can't say that Psycho's the thing that invented the Oedipus complex.
Yeah.
But it's an inherent tension because it's something that's theorized that happens to everyone.
Dan. I don't want to be controversial, but I completely agree.
I
don't want to be contrarian, but I agree with everything you're saying.
Damn it.
I think it's okay to be like, this movie reminds me of Psycho, but then don't just stop your conversation there. Like if I'm writing the review, like,
what reminds me of
very
Psycho?
Much like Psycho.
Bates Motel.
That's right. Oh, dude, that was just like it.
You know what reminds me of Psycho? The shot-for-shot remake of Psycho, directed by Gus Van Sant, starring Vince Vaughn. Yeah.
Oh, that was a weird. Like, why did that movie even exist? Why do a shot-for-shot remake?
I have no idea.
It's like trying to put a movie in HD or something.
And
but
why
just
Gus Van
different
Sant?
actors.
That's weird. That was a weird choice for him because he's done so
Vince
much
Vaughn?
good stuff. Well, I mean,
I like Vince Vaughn, but
like Vince Vaughn looks like he could be,
He was in a weird prison movie recently where it was supposed to mimic those old like grindhouse prison films. Mm-hmm. Where like someone gets their head punched in and it explodes, kind of like Trauma. See,
Or
I'm
Story
doing
of
the
Ricky
comparisons
O.
too. And it was okay. It was actually kind of interesting. It was a weird movie. Anywho, of course I can't remember what it's called. Like Assault on Cell Block something or
Oh
some
yeah,
shit
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
I don't remember.
It's
what
on
it is.
Amazon. Woo! Tangent time for
Yeah,
for
we're just
Jared.
tangent all day.
So I guess in conclusion, I can see why people could try to draw comparisons or whatever. It's kind of there, but then nobody would explain why they thought that. They're just like, it's like Psycho. That's it. Well, no one ever goes further. They're like, why is it like Psycho? I don't know.
And
There's a
those
mom.
people,
Mom
like,
is there.
You have to think that those people are just one and done with movies, where it's like, I've seen Psycho like 5 million times. And that's an exaggeration, but I've seen it quite a bit.
Dan,
I've seen it more than once. Let's put it that way.
have you seen Psycho 5 million times?
No, I've seen
Have
Old Boy
you?
5 million times. But and Ghost in the Shell. Anyway, the idea that we are comparing it to Psycho, I get it, but at the same time, if you go in prejudging it in that way, I think you're going to miss a lot of the intricacies of the film. Because as soon as I'm like, oh, this is going to be like Psycho, I'm like, I'm not going to think about that because it may yield other things to me, which it totally did.
Yes.
Because
This
if you
movie
go
is
in with
super
the
different from Psycho.
yeah, if you go in with the prejudice that it's going to be the same plotline as Psycho, you're going to miss every fucking thing that makes this film unique. So stop it. I mean, maybe that's why Rotten Tomatoes gave it like a 53%. Like it's not. It's not doing very well.
Yeah, I don't get why. I think it's either people just don't know this movie exists, and the people who saw it was like Psycho, but it's like Psycho, and then they shit their pants.
Yeah.
Where do you even begin with this movie, though? That's the other problem. This movie is so all over the place. Okay. So we have the main character, whose name is Carl? Toby Jones. Holy
or Kyle.
Shit. Is it Carl? Kyle? I think it's Carl.
It's
He
Kyle,
is
but like,
he is so good in this. And we saw him in Tale of Tales as the other
Yes.
king. And he gives a great monologue in that to his daughter. And I was like, damn, this guy, like I've seen him before. I'm like, I like him. And then that's why I picked this movie, because I saw him on the cover. I was like, oh, I want to see this guy act. And he does such a good job. And there's like, there's little interactions with him and his next door neighbor who I liked. And there's just like these fun little cute interactions where it's like him talking to his neighbor, and we're learning so much about him through like a 1-2 minute conversation that I couldn't help but think about that other shitty movie Dark that we watched. That is kind of similar
I
to
was
this.
thinking the same thing where I'm like,
Where-
I was actively comparing this to Dark and
Yes.
just thinking about how this does the same exact thing, but is an actual movie.
Yeah.
You know what
Yes,
I mean?
exactly. So like Dark is if you don't know, we did an episode on it. It's not the TV show. It has nothing to do with the Dark TV show, which is actually very good. And Dark was this person's attempt at making a psychological film about a woman who's going slowly crazy after her girlfriend leaves for like the weekend or something. She thinks she gets paranoid and starts going crazy. And it's similar in those respects to this movie. But it's just so funny how like that entire film was trying to give us information and couldn't do it. And how this movie could give us information in like 1 minute. Like I learned like, oh, this guy's lonely. He's going on dating sites. He's awkward. He doesn't even have a nice shirt to wear. So his next door neighbor gives him one, like all these things we're
a nice shirt.
finding out about him.
That's why I think this film is so good, because the dialogue, not just between him and his neighbor and the cute interactions, but all of the really strange, awkward interactions between that first date he brings home, like that reveals so much by saying so little. It is incredible how writing works in this movie.
Absolutely. There's a little scene where it just shows him. He's walking down the street. Compare that to Dark, when that dumb lady's just walking down the street being super confused by everything, right? But with him, it's like he's walking, he's holding his grocery bags, and he sees a van. He's like, oh, a van. He's looking at it, and he goes, oh, it's on sale. And it's like 300 pounds to like 250 pounds. Mm-hmm. He's like looking at it very tentatively, and you can see him thinking about it like, do I need a van? I don't know. I'll just keep
he
walking.
wants a van. He has a van can.
A John Van Can?
Yes, a John Van Can.
A Van Dam Cam?
A Van Dam Cam? No, seriously. He's like, he has a business apparently. Like the subplot, or like the narrative that is constructed around the backstory of this character is he is trying to start his own business in which he needs a van. He has a van can on his kitchen counter where he puts like quarters, or I guess in this place would be like quid in it every day.
Pounds or whatever, yeah.
And then he's going to buy this fucking van that's outside of his apartment.
Exactly. And that's setting up him wanting to just live a normal life. So he has this tragedy in his head, this like terrible stuff that happened to him either now or in the past or something. And he's trying to move on from that, which is mainly involving his parents. And they do little subtle hints about explaining that about his life so well from just showing you and not telling you.
Yes.
Which is nice. Thank you, movie. So he's walking along, and then like two kids are playing soccer and they kick the ball to him. And what does he do? He's like, oh, I'm going to play too.
The ball back, yeah.
But where does he kick it?
He kicks it in a crime scene.
Yeah, he kicks it right into a crime scene.
And then walks away as the police brings it back up like he didn't do it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to deal with it. Yeah, it's pretty great. And there's just something about those little interactions. There's not even any dialogue that I just enjoyed so much because I'm learning about this guy. It's like he wants to be happy, but he can't for some reason. There's something holding him back, and you find out what that is. He's got lots of psychological trauma. Ooh. Yeah. Not enough plaster. That's what I say. Apparently, plaster is Band-Aids to British people.
Well, Band-Aids is a brand name. I don't know if you knew that. Like the word Band-Aid is a brand name.
That's true. You're right.
I was just being a dick at the beginning of the episode.
But it's silly because who has ever called a Band-Aid plaster before? Besides
I call them
some people from another
strips.
Country.
Yes. Some people who are not like me.
U.S. citizens.
Not appreciate.
No, it's fine that they do. It's fun for me to like think of how we use different like words for different things. You know, different things mean different things, Dan. I don't know if you know that.
I don't see. I'm glad you're here to teach me things like that because I would have gone through my entire life not understanding how different things can be different things.
Different things mean different things. Thank you. The more you know. So let's cut to the date, Dan. The date is where we get the most information. It's super intriguing. These conversations between these two characters. It's like
the amount of red flags that this woman just straight up ignores in the like she doesn't just ignore them. She's like, "Oh, that's a red flag. I'm going to continue going on." And every single time a red flag happens, she's like, "Huh, that's interesting. I really like how you have a red flag right now. I'm looking to know more."
Do you have any more red flags? I want to see them. Oh my god. Oh my goodness.
But like it felt so natural, so I was able to forgive it. But like just so many things that he says, I'm like, no, go away. You need to leave.
Well, the whole reason why she ignores all of these weird red flags is because she's there to rob him.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. That's why she was looking for things.
Because you remember later, she's just constantly looking through his shit.
But she was so believable saying that she's a nice person, that she wants to be nice. Yeah. Oh, but then whenever she says, you have that look. Well, if I'm going to be honest, it's like, did she say pushover? I thought she said version.
Yes. No. He says, you look like a pushover. That's why I accepted the ad.
See,
so she could fucking rob him. That's why she wants him to drink alcohol so he'll pass out and she can go through his shit. That's why the boyfriend, remember the boyfriend leaves a message on her phone and says, "Hey, I'm at the place. Where are you?" He's waiting outside in case anything happens to her.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
Because I was too busy focusing on other. Like, I thought she was like. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So that doesn't it? Because you're like, wait, this lady is kind of attractive. Why is she dating this older guy? It looks like they're in totally different leagues. And then I'm like, oh, she's only there to fucking swindle this guy.
If you don't mind me saying, she does have them British teeth.
Mm.
Is that too
We call them chompers across the pond, so it's different.
Chompers.
Old chompy
She's got
champs.
them British chompers.
Yeah, she could use braces. Sure. But did she do an incredible acting job? Yes, she did.
Yes, she did.
Both of them.
Did she
like I said,
snag her
it was
teeth
like
on...
it was like a fencing match between these two, and this could have been the whole film. It was just them two. I really enjoyed it. So like they're going back and forth, and he's being so considerate. He like even made her the drink that she said she liked on her dating profile.
Yeah.
And they're actually having fun, and she even says later on, she's like, I actually kind of do like you. But that wasn't her main reason for being there, and that's kind of why she almost was like giving up on robbing him. She's like, I feel so bad for you, like I don't want to do this anymore. But like she was pretending like she couldn't find smoking papers, but she had them in her bag, and that's how the main character figures out, oh, she's up to something because she keeps looking through all my shit.
Right.
And then when he confronts her about it is when she's like, you know what? I only picked you because you're a pushover, blah, blah, blah. And then she kind of goes in the bathroom or somewhere.
And then he locks it in there.
Yes. So then you're kind of confused about there's like a weird cut of he may have choked her to death.
Yeah, they keep repeating the beginning of the film over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
What gets confusing, what gets confusing about this film is all these cuts where you see him murdering this girl out of context. That starts to begin being intercut with his mother in the same clothes as the other female in the film. And it's
as we like to say across the pond.
So confusing.
That starts to begin.
Yes.
It is. You're right. And she's got like the blue shirt on, but the mom has that too. Yeah. And you're like, what the fuck? But then why would his mom have his shirt on? Here is what I'm thinking, Danny boy. I think maybe you hit on it earlier that there might have been a weird sexual relationship between him and his mom. Mm-hmm. Right? So here's my theory of exactly what has happened. When he was a boy, his mama was molesting him, I guess, for lack of a better word, and has brainwashed him into thinking that he is in love with his own mother.
Would it be in bad taste to try to find a better word for molestation?
Diddle, I think it is, across the pond.
Diddle?
And
not
diddle
hand
fingers.
jobs?
No. That's too crass. Don't be a crass boy.
Oh,
and,
you're trying to euphemize it. I think that's
euthanize it, more like it.
Well, I mean both.
So he is now convinced by his mama to kill his papa, who he loves, but now is like in a weird relationship with his mom. So it's like it's almost superseding that. And then once he kills his father, he goes to jail.
Yes.
For killing his faja. And I'm assuming stays in juvie jail for a long time. And that's why he has that weird record or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how long he stayed in jail. This is all theory. I'm not 100% sure. Because it is implied that he was in jail at one point in his life.
Yeah.
So then once he gets out, he's like, I don't want to have anything to do with my mom. She fucking ruined my life. Like tricked me basically into fucking killing my own dad and like fell in love with me and shit. So that's why when she calls him on the phone, I think that's the only time when the mom leaves that message. That's the only time we ever hear the mom. I don't think we ever, like, whenever we see her, I don't think it's real.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I don't think the mom ever showed up to his house ever. And he's so traumatized by these events that they've just warped his psyche on women, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he's projecting all of these things onto this date that he has, which is a sham of a date. Abe! And he just sees his mother in this woman, I guess. But here's the problem I have. It's not really a problem. But, like, because there's so many scenes with the mom and her staying there and all this other stuff. Is that all the girl? Is that all Abby? That's the mom?
Well, see,
like, are all those scenes her?
No, here's what I thought may have happened. I feel like the mom that we see in the film is actually Abby. But the mom that we don't see in the film, that is the one that would be in between the message and what we actually see, I think he actually does murder his mother in the apartment.
Really?
I think he does. And all the moms that we see, or all the mom scenes that we see, are just him.
All the moms that we
all the mom scenes that we see are him projecting his mother's image onto this woman. But there's like a couple other weird scenes where like his mom is. See, this is where the film gets really weird. It's like his mom like is underhandedly saying that he's a fuck up at murder. It's like, imagine sawing a woman's legs off, bloody mess or something. Like, you know, it's like it's this weird underhanded sarcasm that she's just using to get under his skin and try to manipulate him more. But to what purpose at that point?
Yeah. Well, it's almost like she becomes that little voice in everyone's head that just tells you you're a fucking idiot and you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you are a fucking idiot and you don't know what you're talking about.
God damn it, voice in my head. Well, that's why, Dan, you are that voice, because I don't have that voice. So Dan will call me periodically and leave me messages saying that I'm a piece of shit.
Hey, Jared, just...
You never amount to anything, you fucking piece of shit. Well, here's a question for you, Dan. Did any murders occur? Because at the end of the film, they do like a twisteroo where it was like, it was all in your head. It was a big sham. Like, nobody got killed. I'm like, did no one get killed? I don't know.
I would say that, yes, there was a murder that we never saw. There's
But how did he hide the body?
What?
Like, do you think he was reenacting how he hid his mother's corpse? And this happened years ago?
Possibly. I don't know. But that's why I like the film, because it's so abstract and it makes you make your own conclusions. So I like to think that there was some form of murder, or if there wasn't a murder, as soon as that phone call happened.
Yeah.
He just hearing his mother's voice on the
he snaps.
He spirals downward into his imagination.
Oh yeah,
where he wants nothing
into
more
the terrible world of imagination. Yeah. I know that like Sesame Street and shit are trying to tell you that imagination is great. It's not. It's not great. It's evil.
Hold on a second. I don't know
what's up.
When the last time you went to Epcot was, but you should know that Disney has, the rights to what imagination is. I don't know why you go to Sesame Street.
Whoa, they do.
The Figment,
okay. So should we stop talking about it? We're gonna get sued.
We can't talk about imagination because
we cannot talk about imagination.
It's copywritten.
Actually, if we say it 3 more times, Mickey Mouse will appear and stab us both in the head.
Yes. I like how one of the default ways is, just violence instead of copyright court. It's like, no, Mickey Mouse is going to come in and just, throw knives at you.
You better not infringe on my copyright. Nobody messes.
Or no,
nobody messes with Big Daddy.
Now, so like they can.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Laser our fucking
cauterize the wound. A clean death. If you strike me down, I'll be stronger than ever before. Oh, Mickey Mouse. Just piss all over our face. Just go for it. Anywho.
Yuck. Who you calling a nerf herder?
It's a goofy movie. You know that's on Netflix? and I think about assigning
You
it
know,
every day.
I think they're making a Goofy movie too, or like a new Goofy movie.
What?
Like all these years later, there's going to be another one.
Dude.
I liked a Goofy movie.
Just you do you, Hollywood, you know?
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. You do you. Okay, well, Dan.
Yes? Mom?
I had a thing and now it's gone. What do I do?
Well, you have to first realize that things can be different. And then it will come back.
Different.
Come back full
What
circle.
should I do with it? Okay, so he thinks he has killed a lady. We can agree. Then his mom shows up. His mom is doing all the things that the girl was doing. She's smoking. He does the same thing with the chair onto the door where a woman is yelling in the bathroom to get out of the bathroom. He will never sleep in his bedroom because I think it's some weird trauma of him having sex with his mom.
In that bed.
Yeah, so it was like freaked him out. And he only sleeps on the couch, which I thought was really interesting. There's so many different things that keep repeating over and over again like that.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of who the characters are, it's always like that. There's a lot of like him slowly drinking water, whatever, I don't know. But there's a great scene, I remember now what I was going to say. Finally, I stalled for that long, Dan, and I finally came up with it. When he goes into his mom's room, because his mom was like, "I've come to visit you. I'm here for the plaster convention. Did you know that Band-Aids are called plaster?" Yes, thanks, Mom. And she eventually weasels her way into staying in the bedroom, even though he's like yelling at her to be like, "I fucking hate you." She's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "No, I really want you to die." He's like, "Well, I'll do it later. Here's 90,000 pounds." And she's in the bedroom sleeping, and he goes in there, and he sees the woman that he killed instead of his mom. And you're like, "Oh no, movie, what are we doing?" And he takes his clothes off. He's getting real horny, borny. That's the right word. And he jumps in bed with his mom. And his mom is like, "Touch me. Oh, touch me, Kyle." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to get real sexy." And then the girl turns back into his mom, and he jumps out of bed. He's like, "Oh, shit." And then the mom says, "You wanted me to be here." Like the weirdest shit. You're like, none of this can be real, right? Because then the mom starts implying that they really did have a weird, sexy time relationship.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember that scene where the mom is like, "Could you clean my knee? I scraped my knee. Could you clean it?" And then he says, "I would never touch you or clean your knee. You do it yourself." And then by the end of the film, he is doing it because she asks again, and it's bleeding. And they somehow make like her knee bleeding into like a
sexy
weird
thing.
sexual.
Yeah. Oh my god, the way they have like a
And then the
soft
mom's
glow around
face.
It. Yeah.
Ew,
She's all
and she like
sultry.
bites her upper lip.
Yeah.
It's so fucking gross. Ooh. Nosebleeds too is another thing that keeps happening.
Yes.
Now I'm just gonna. I guess we'll just talk about scenes we enjoyed because, like I said, this movie's all over. But
Well,
the
wait,
scene
before we
where-
get into the things that we enjoyed, there was something with cancer. So maybe mom died of cancer.
Oh yes, the mom was saying,
She had bone
which
cancer.
we might think, that it might have been in his head, but the mom was saying that she had terminal cancer. In a very bizarre scene. First she says, because
This is where she won the lottery, right?
Yeah. So he tries to make his mom leave a million billion times.
Yeah.
I even wrote in all caps like, "Why won't this mom leave?" They should have called this
Okay,
Kaleidoscope
guys,
or How I Got My Mom to Leave My Apartment.
Yeah.
The quest to
We
make
will.
mom leave.
We'll talk about the kaleidoscope soon. The titular kaleidoscope, because that is an interesting plot device. But the mom does leave the apartment. But what happens whenever she leaves physically the apartment, Jared?
I mean, she comes back. That's the only thing I can think of.
She doesn't
comes
fucking come back.
usually.
She just stands outside the door.
Oh,
where
yeah.
she can be seen by
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, just smoking outside.
It just keeps looking
But-
in. It's like, I know you can see me.
Yeah, and then you keep thinking, like, how is she getting back into the house? Like, she's got to be in his head. there's a scene where he is talking to his mom through a door.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an interesting scene of them going back and forth. And it's like her trying to slowly reveal that she knows more about the murders, like way more information than that she should know. And just more about her, like, saying that she should be in this bedroom and, like, that he invited her there. And I'm like, this is fucking creepy as shit. Oh, God. So what do you think the dynamic was between him and his dad in that kaleidoscope?
Okay.
Because you brought that up.
So there's this thing where he sees the kaleidoscope, he looks into it, and you get this really awesome shot of like the kaleidoscope doing its kaleidoscope thing, but then it does a reverse shot to his eyeball in the kaleidoscope effect, because that's what his eye would look like within the kaleidoscope. And then you hear his dad say something like, and you see how all the colors are changing, and then he cuts away from that, and then it happens a second time, so it repeats itself, but then this time the dad's head starts bleeding.
Yes. Super weird.
So I feel like the only thing I can think of that would explain this is his dad gave him, you know,
the kaleidoscope,
a toy, and it was like the fondest memory he ever had of his father
dad,
before his mom started corrupting him to be against his dad to a point where, you know, there was enough trauma to, you know, convince him that that was the right thing to do, like murder his dad.
Yeah, it's
so
it's
essentially the kaleidoscope to me seems like a physical representation of guilt, because of how innocent that moment in time was for him, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure. So after he jumps out of his mom's bed, after thinking
after he jumps out of his mom's womb, he runs down the street screaming like a little infant. But then the mother, quick on her wits, yanks the umbilical cord straight back to her.
Oh, yeah, it was kind of weird how when she was like, I got a baby, and she's kind of like flicking the baby around in a circle, you know, on the umbilical cord like Freddy got fingered. It was pretty bizarre there.
Yeah.
Harlan Williams too. Wow, what a great guest
and
appearance.
Steve Zahn. I mean, it was weird to see in that
Zahn
movie.
That's
weird.
As the fetus.
Yeah.
That's weird. Anyways, none of that happened. So he jumps out of bed and he's trying to usher his mom out of the apartment because he's now almost tried to have sexy times with his mommy. And then, but
Twice.
Then the mom says, "You broke my foot. You broke my foot." Because he was pushing her down the stairs almost. And then the next scene, we see the mom. The mom is totally fine. She's all dressed up. She's got like makeup on. She's smoking. She seems like she's doing great. And then later on at the end of the film, we find out that the lady that he supposedly killed is alive and she is in crutches. And she's like, "You broke my fucking foot." And the boyfriend's there like really pissed at him, you know? And she's like, "I'm here to get my stuff back." And then when they go and like find all of the stuff, it's like all of her clothes, but they're all destroyed and like washed and shitty. You know, and it's so bizarre. So it's like, was that whole time, was that the girl?
That's why
it's like
it's so strange. Like I feel like, yes, anytime that we see the mom, it was the girl, and he was just projecting his mother's consciousness onto that to fit his like really just bizarre fantasy.
Yeah.
But it just, because there's also that scene where like he goes to get his passport and he sees like the newspaper and he's wearing that really stupid shirt, like the gaudy shirt. It's like, could this be the killer? And he starts freaking out. But like, what is that even, like, what was that?
So there was an actual another murder that he was fantasizing that it was him.
Right.
And that he was going to get caught. But it was just like a totally unrelated murder. And that's how they try to explain how like his friends and everyone else are talking about like, there's some guy who's like killed and dismembered people, and he's like fantasizing about him, it being him.
But then what makes it confusing is his boss is like, "Hey, somebody said they saw somebody here last night. And then he's like, well, it could have been a fox. He's like, no, this person pretty much said it was you. So I think it's best if we keep the keys.
You give me the key, yeah.
So that makes you more confused because he did something physically in that story world to cause people alarm. Like, I don't think that was in his head.
So he probably went back to his garden, like at work, and dug it up and buried something there. But just like the clothes in the washer, it was probably just like clothes or something.
You know how he was pulling up that suitcase that was super heavy up the steps?
Yeah, where did that suitcase come from?
That's what he buried in the rose garden.
Oh,
so he went back and he got it and he brought it back. But it was a heavy, heavy thing. And whenever he opened it up on the table... There was nothing in there that should have been that heavy.
Like clothes. Yeah.
So there had to have, there was some form of murder, whether it was in his past or in his imagination. I don't know.
It definitely happened way before and not presently in the film. What was really cool too is when they would show him like he cuts up the body, but they just cut away. They're showing something else. I think they're like showing the kaleidoscope, and you just hear him sawing something, and you're like, "This is gruesome." But what he's really doing, he's sawing these strips of clothing, which is funny. And he's like imagining that he's sawing up this woman, and if you can catch it at certain moments of the film where they show what the actual objects are. So at first it shows him like, well, his bloody rags, you know. And then he puts them all in this bag, and he puts it in his broken his clothes washer or whatever. And then when his mom comes to visit, she goes and she looks in and she sees like the bag is in there briefly, and then she goes to open it and there's nothing in there, and then it cuts to him in his bathroom and he has the bag, but the bag was in there, and you're like, wait a minute. One of these doesn't make sense. Like, how can the bag be in that fucking washer and also upstairs with him at the same time? And they do shit like that a lot.
Here's
throughout the whole film.
Connection scene. How do you feel about that very last frame where you see him take the plaster off of his knee where his mother,
his own leg,
had her wound?
Well, then that implies that he was acting out a lot of the stuff with his mom. And it also explains how nobody could talk to, nobody ever talked to the mom. And there's a lot of scenes where it just shows the mother in the background listening.
Yeah, oh my God.
So it's like him explaining how his mom knows so much.
Where the police come in and interrogate him, and there's a police dog. And then he's like, my mom left yesterday, and she's at the door. And the dog, notices her or something.
Does the dog notice?
There's a scene where the dog kind of jerks his head whenever he hears something in the other room, and then it cuts to the mom.
Whoa!
So it's so
that's weird.
It's just, this movie's all over the place, like we've been saying. It's fun to try to watch and pick apart where the intensity is coming from and where the narrative is going.
I wonder if this movie would be fun to watch again with the knowledge that you have. And just think I'm going to pretend that the mom is him and the girl at the same time and try to figure out when is it the girl? When is it him? I don't know. Very bizarre. So was there anything else you would like to talk about, Dan, before we wrap things up?
No.
Oh, why did the police visit him if he'd never committed a crime?
What were they asking him?
They're saying, hey, we heard a lot of noises. We heard a woman was missing, and she was maybe last seen with him. That didn't make any sense. I was like, huh? If that all was fake,
what might have happened?
Huh?
He might have locked the girl in the bathroom, and then the boyfriend. You know how that one part where the boyfriend shows up, and then he just kind of looks at him, and then.
There are so many tense scenes in this movie. That's the main reason you watch this film is these interactions.
The boyfriend knew that the woman is in there, but because their main goal was to rob the shit out of this guy, he could only deliver an anonymous tip. And then that's
Okay.
probably why the cops showed up. And then by that time,
So they were trying to find that woman.
and then so the woman would not, like, she may have been incapacitated, but then he lets her go, and then he breaks her foot somehow.
Yeah. So maybe that whole scene of him choking her in the bathroom did happen, but she didn't die. Because do you remember when it shows that scene of him running up to her and going, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do it." And you're thinking like, "Oh, that was just his fantasy of him pretending like, I wish this woman was still alive." What if that really fucking happened, Dan? And then when she tried to escape, he was like, I'll fucking push you down the stairs or whatever. Or like she was so hurt that she just went into the bed to go to sleep. And then he went to go try to have sex with her, and she's like, what are you doing? And then he got really mad again.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then threw her down the stairs, and then she hurt her foot, and that's when she finally left. And then the boyfriend and her come back later to get her things, because she gets run out of the house. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
That.
Man, God, this movie's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
He is so out of his mind the whole film. Do not drink alcohol. That's the main... That'll make sense if you watch the film. So... Final thoughts, Danny. What do you think?
I really enjoy this film. I don't think... Just don't compare it to Cycle.
Yeah.
Don't compare it to Psycho.
Cycle.
Watch it. Enjoy it for what it is, not for what you think it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Preconceived
notions. Let it be.
And I don't understand why it's so...
Let it be. Let it be. Having sex with your mother. Let it be. Gross. God, this movie is gross. I still liked it. It's a pretty fascinating film. Interesting character study. I'd watch it for just how it was directed and edited and the dialogue. Just some of the back and forth, the sparring matches between these actors. Everyone does such a good job. It makes it very fun to watch, and I like these types of movies. I got a soft spot.
Movies that make you think.
So I'd say watch it. Yeah, things that make you go. Mm.
Yes,
Dan,
Mom.
Since you refused to bring me the plaster, refuse. I'm gonna have to ask you to give me a movie instead because Daddy needs a movie.
For your mommy. All right. Okay.
Oh.
So you may have already seen this movie. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes long. It's going to be on Amazon.com. But in the spirit of me going to South Korea, we're going to watch a South Korean film. It is Bong Joon-ho's first really big hit before The Host. So you've seen The Host, right?
Sure.
So it's the same guy.
I remember enjoying that.
It's called Memories of Murder. Have you seen it? Okay.
Hell no.
So, it's on Amazon, and in a small Korean province in 1986, 3 detectives struggle with the case of multiple young women being found raped and murdered by an unknown culprit. So basically, it's based on true events, like South Korea in 1986 experienced its first serial killer. So it's a dramatization of that, but it has excellent acting in it, and one of the funniest fucking things... I'm going to give it to you right now. It's not going to spoil anything because whenever it fucking happens in the movie, I'm going to say it out loud. You're not going to believe me until you see it in the film. One of the detectives just straight up drop kicks every fucking suspect. It's hilarious. It makes me laugh so hard every single time I watch it. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you when it happens, but he will just fucking just jump up in the air and just bam. It's wonderful.
Is this because Korean films can just do any genre of they'll just do 10 genres of all the same
This film
movie.
is intense. Minus that hilarity part, it's not like The Host where it's like a family picture. This film is pretty
a family picture.
I think it's my favorite of Bong Joon-ho's films, and he's the guy that did Snowpiercer, Okja, The Host.
He did Snowpiercer? I need to see that movie.
Snowpiercer's really good. It's not on Netflix right now. I have the Blu-ray of it. I really like it, but. I think this is still it's one of his first. It's like his first breakout. Oh, he did a film called Mother, which is also very good. So,
yeah, I want to see that movie.
Excellent. So,
I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it.
Mother, you need to watch. He did Memories of Murder and The Host, or Memories and He did Memories of Murder and Mother before he did The Host, and The Host just broke Korea's box office records in 2006, and it made it more
awesome.
You know, Korea can now make films that will make money
Mainstream?
in like domestic money, whereas exports before was doing their stuff. So, yeah, Memories of Murder it's intense, and I think it's his masterpiece. But it's like it's more in my wheelhouse, where The Host is a monster movie and it's like family and it deals with a lot. This is like it's a drama. It's heavy. It's like basically Bong Joon-ho's Old Boy, whereas Park Chan-wook has Old Boy, and he deals with like heavy topics all the time. But Old Boy is probably one of the heaviest ones. I think this is Bong Joon-ho's heaviest film.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, Mother's heavy
dude.
too, but I don't know. It's a tie between this one and Mother, but this one's actually on Amazon Prime, so I want to watch it again.
Woo, we've talked enough. Guys, if you want to find us or tell other people about us, oldboys_podcast on Twitter. We're on there doing stuff, doing our thing. You can hit us up. If you want to find our main site, you would need to Google Podbean, which is podbean.com, P-O-D bean. That's where we're hosted right now. And go in there and you can search Old Boys Podcast. You'll find us. Super easy. And we also have a SoundCloud that kind of can link to that too. That's like the first thing that shows up. But yeah, just Old Boys Podcast, and you should be able to hit us up. We're all over the place. We're on we're on Stitcher now. Can you believe it? Premium content.
Yes.
Paywall. So, can you believe the show is free, Dan?
I can, but I love it.
Yeah, I know. I love it too. So, hope this was something, guys. Hugs and kisses. Be kind to your mommies and your daddies, all right? And don't murder or have sex with them. Okay, thank you. I don't know why I have to say this out loud, but
I mean, it's helpful. It's helpful. You know,
some people are confused.
And watch, we probably helped the one person that's listening to our show and needed that in that moment.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, if we can reach one person in this podcast.
That's one dad that's not murdered and one mommy that's not slept.
Oh, no. You wanted me to be here. Dan?
Yes.
You have the final word. Boop.
Who runs Kneecap Town? Master Plaster runs Kneecap Town.
Master Plaster? God damn it.